We are live now, and we want to welcome everyone. My name is Brian Mefford. I'm the director of Help Ukraine Operation Polonitsa. Help Ukraine Operation Polonitsa was set up in the first hours and days of the war and the invasion. We have been able to raise and deliver more than $6.3 million in humanitarian aid, both in terms of medical donations as well as financial donations. So, we are continuing our work as the war continues. It's now longer than World War II, but we're continuing our work. It is still a challenge. This winter has been particularly difficult with the heating and electricity outages. Nonetheless, though, we continue. We've been able to provide some generators and help Ukrainians with heating issues this winter. We've also been able to continue medical donations, sometimes expensive medicines from the West that we've been able to get donated and give to Ukrainians who need them, including soldiers on the front lines. I always tell the story that even though not all the medicines that we give to Ukrainians, including soldiers, are um, tourniquets or life-saving on a at the moment, but they are important for people with chronic diseases. We have a lot of medicines that are donated for people in the area of rheumatology. And so even, for example, if you have lupus or high or gout or some of these other ailments, um, they don't take a break because there's a war. They continue to affect you. In fact, those chronic conditions are often worsened by the stress of war. So we've been able to fortunately deliver more than $1 million worth of such medicines. We're very happy about that, thanks to our friends in particularly in the New York area. The biggest part of our work right now, though, is supporting this veterans organization, Peaceless Sluzhby in Ukrainian means after service, and it refers to soldiers who have finished their military service and then are returning to civilian life. As we know from both the American and European experience, it's always a difficult transition, and oftentimes veterans are suffering from post-trauma stress disorder, PTSD, and while many adjust, not everybody adjusts. So one of the key efforts of after service is to help soldiers overcome this PTSD. They also help soldiers with practical things like learning English language so they can get a better job, and with job placement in different companies that hire veterans. They help with a number of things like art therapy and painting. Um, they have some wonderful programs. I'll let Anastasia tell you more about them because she works on these every day. Anastasia represents this bright generation of young Ukrainians who are already taking leadership roles in Ukraine. This is critical because so many Ukrainians are abroad. Many, of course, have given their lives to protect the country. But we're encouraged when we see young people like Anastasia taking an active role to help their country, to help the veterans, realizing how important this issue is. I always tell people someday, believe it or not, this war is going to end. And when it does, that'll be a good thing. But unfortunately, Ukraine is going to be saddled with the legacy of trauma for decades to come. And so that is why it's critical to engage with veterans now. And after service has been there from 2023, working exactly in this area. So she'll tell you more about their efforts and the work they're doing.
Okay, yeah. Brian,
And
thanks. Are you hear me? Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, Brian, thanks for having me, and really appreciate all your work that you do for our foundation, and thank you so much. So yeah, you really said true that veterans need help, and their transition to civil life means making dramatic change. And veterans grapple with adapting to civil workplace cultures or other institution, upskilling, getting relevant professional experience, and applying previous skills to a new life. And now in Ukraine, we have 1 million, over 1 million veterans number of war, whose information is included in the Ministry for Veterans Affairs. And the population of Ukraine now in 2025 is 31 million. And according to the forecast of the Ministry of Veterans Affairs, after the war, we will have more than 2 million veterans in Ukraine, and considered as the family members about 5 million and more. So that the forecast in 24% of population connected to veterans in the near future. And problematics connected with veterans in Ukraine now are physical injuries, veterans every day faced with that, financial problems, unemployment after service, failure to reintegrate into civil society, moral injury, unthreatened emotional distress, lack of community, pre-existing mental health vulnerability, including PTSD, housing issues. Our mission surely we primarily support veterans and also the families of veterans, the fallen warriors, prisoners of war, and those missing in combat action. And we helping them return to a full life. What we do: physical rehabilitation, medical navigation, psychological support, career support, training, retraining, legal advice, social support, educational courses, and some community programs, support for their children and other family members. We provide healthcare, education, job placement, legal support, and social support. What about healthcare? Rehabilitation. That's point is about rehabilitation of complex cases like spinal injury, craniocerebral injury, post-trauma. Support and rehabilitation of those who does not have certificate of the combat action participant. In Ukraine, this certificate just provide some really good privileges for veterans. And of course, we have, like all countries, bureaucracy with this certificate given. And we provide also and help veterans get this certificate of combat experience. Job placement. Після служби Foundation tries to place veterans in more skilled jobs with high salaries. Education, higher quality commercial analogs of state educational programs, work with several state university and also private university who really helps veteran with educational and retraining. Legal support for those who don't have certificate of the combat action, like I said, and social support. We provide access to a variety of activities and entertainment, yachting, art therapy. We provide also vacation for families of veterans, also in abroad. Last year, we provide a trip for families in Greece, and it was really a great experience for them. And we work on a system like case management. We have 4 phases. The first phase, veterans sign up directly on our website. The second phase, after registration, veterans are personally interviewed by our case management, and also I also have assist in this second phase. The third phase, the case manager explore diligently solution through our expensive and our experience, like what we can do for him or for her. The first phase, upon registration, we don't split up with veteran. We just monitor his methodically the veteran status and maintain consistent communication with his or her. Our impact now, we helped 15,000 requests of assistance. This is about direct support to over 15,000 veterans. Legal aid, healthcare, rehabilitation, educational, social support, events for them, building a community and supportive community for veterans, psychological support, employment, temporary house, veteran support training. Also, we helped Ukrainian brigades with veteran social support, and we organized some courses for them to learn how give the social support veteran. So our cases, the physical about physical rehabilitation. This is our priority for veterans. It's our key and the most resource intensive areas of activities. Physical rehabilitation is a priority for our foundation, and it is what enables veterans to return to a full life and paves the way for further recovery. We help people with disability find his new way, find his way to rebuild, to recovery. And I just can tell you about some cases. For example, Andriy Pashkovsky, his combat experience incredible. He was a soldier from 2014. He was in Donetsk airport, and in 2022, terrible news divided the family's life into before and after. He was seriously injured, suffering a traumatic brain injury. He was 5 days in coma, intensive care, serious but stable condition, and the verdict was alive but immobile. And the injury left complex consequences, impaired movement, coordination, and speech. His motor function was 15%, and this is a terrible situation. But we spent for his physical rehabilitation $5,000, and now he has really an immense success about his recovery. Now he increase his motor functions from 15% to 40%. And this is a really huge success for him. Also, he have a wonderful, caring family who always near with him and helping with everything. Another, Andriy Kovalenko, also, he was a soldier from 2014 while performing combat duties in Bakhmut, Donetsk region, and he was seriously wounded as a result of shelling. And his condition also was critical, severe trauma, traumatic brain injury, spinal trauma, craniocerebral also trauma. And we also spent for him $5,000, and he now also has a great success for his recovery. Now he can walk by himself, just get up his right hand, and he can speak. His motor functions also were improved. Yeah. That's about physical rehabilitation. Also, we have activities and entertainments. We create a space where veterans and their family can recover through shared experience, travel, just communicate with each other. Creativity and lively communication we create for them. We have art therapy, yachting, also. Uh, just one second. Also, we have for them Veteran Connect, just a great event. We held one for months, per month, yeah. And we gather together all veterans and speak with them, just investigate what's just their feeling and what they have problems. Also, we provide diving for them, master class, hippotherapy, tango. We collaborate with Embassy of Argentina in Ukraine, and they're also our partners and provide tango classes for veterans. Movie night with a psychologist, and by the way, it's also good experience. Like for our foundation, like also for veterans, our format watching films with psychologists is much more than just a regular movie screening. During the screening, the psychologist gently draws attention to important some moments in the plot, the characters' reaction, and possible emotional triggers. And also, we have Kiev city tours or tours abroad Ukraine. Legal support for those who also has not a combat certificate or the combat experience. We provide veterans and their families with access to professional legal assistance in a convenient format. We work with cooperation with volunteer legal organization that provide consultation and support, and we cover the cost of specialized lawyers in more complex cases. Education and employment, we bring together a wide network of partners who provide educational opportunities for veterans, from short courses and training sessions to retraining programs and mentoring support. We cooperation with all Ukrainian state universities, institution of veterans, KC, canoe and so on, and they have a really splendid good program for veterans, and this program's free, and that's important, and the veterans just can retraining or just educational by himself themselves. And when it becomes unemployment, we work with both companies that provide career counseling and employers who are willing to hire veterans. And that is also our priority, provide veteran a high a job with high salary. And that's all. Maybe I would be pleased if you make some questions for me. I just answered for all of them.
Thank you, Anastasia. We'll hold the questions till the end.
Sorry, I don't hear you.
No, I don't hear you either.
Okay, great. We will do the questions at the end. Thank you, Anastasia, for that presentation. Now I have the honor of introducing Walburga Habsburg Douglas. Walburga is a two-time member of the Swedish Parliament.
I don't hear you, Brian.
But I hear you, Brian.
Okay, sorry, some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think we're good now.
Yeah, no, I got that.
Sorry for the technical, with a little bit of an echo here. So I have the pleasure of introducing Walburga Habsburg Douglas. Walburga is a two-time member of the Swedish Parliament. I had the pleasure of meeting her in Ukraine in 2019 during the election in which President Zelensky's party came to power. And then I had the opportunity to work with her last autumn in Moldova as an international election observer. Walburga is an international election observation expert. She's also an amazing lady. She speaks 7 or 8 languages. She always says that if you can give a speech about the European Union in a foreign language, then you have mastered the language. She has a long history of giving black eyes to the communist, so to speak. In 1989, in August, at a picnic, the Pan-Europa picnic on the border between Hungary and Austria, she helped organize the opening of the fence, which liberated almost 700 East Germans from the communist regime. This was the most escapees ever up until the Berlin Wall fell a few months later. So she was a real pioneer in that area. Throughout her career, she has been a strong advocate of Ukraine, an independent, sovereign Ukraine, as well as a strong Europe. She continues to do amazing work, both in Sweden and throughout Europe, as well as in Ukraine. She'll tell you a little bit about what she has been doing to help Ukraine, her family as well, and a little bit about what Europe's doing to help Ukraine. There's a lot of information and misinformation in the media, but I think we can all safely say that Europe has definitely stepped up to help Ukraine during this war, and that's important. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Walburga.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. I'm very pleased that I get a chance to speak about the country and the topic I love most, and that lies closest to my heart. As you said, I'm working actively in the Pan-European Union. And I mean, that's not something that stems from yesterday. I was just thinking, my father was president of the International Pan-European Union while he was a member of the European Parliament. And on YouTube, you can find an interview with him where he was lengthily interviewed about Vladimir Putin at a time when the Europeans still thought he is the savior and he is the big European who is going to lead Russia into the European circle. And my father was always saying, you have to judge the man by what he says and he does. He's neither a savior nor is he a big European. And I mean, he was the first one to say that. And now people say, would we have listened to him? I don't think so much would have changed, but it would have been for many people an eye-opener very long before the start of the Ukrainian war. And in the summer of 1999, Putin became prime minister and instantly he started a war against Chechnya. After that, he went on to enlarge his empire and re-Sovietize it, a thing that already Boris Yeltsin had started. Russia was always expansionistic. Putin occupied Georgia, Crimea, Donbass, and Syria, where he destroyed cities, and thus started the refugee crisis for Europe, because when you destroy their cities, people must flee because they cannot stay. And I mean, my father always said, Russia really has only two conditions. One is either they are in a war or they are preparing for a war. Russia attacks its neighbors and then uses them to conquer new regions into its next war. Putin has been in power far too long. He lives in his own Kreml-run fantasy world like Saddam Hussein did. Putin has, thanks to the money coming from the West, or requirements for positive development, but he does not develop anything, the Russian land. Instead, he uses the money to put it into the army and into corruption. In the Middle East, today we see nothing happens which is not with him. And we see that in the war that is right now ongoing. And we in the West have to understand that. If Putin wins the war against Ukraine, which he is not going to do, as I think, he will go on with his raid. First the Baltic states, then Poland, then Moldova. And I mean, Brian, you and I, we were in Moldova. We saw how the situation is there. And what we often do not understand is that the war against us has started already. We always say there is a war in Ukraine, and we never are aware that with the hybrid war going on and all cyber attacks, there is directly right now today a war against us. We see it with the drones in Germany, Sweden, Netherlands. Last week, there was a drone attack in Sweden against a French aircraft carrier, Charles de Gaulle. And the Swedes, 2 days later, said the drones were definitely Russian drones, which is good because, I mean, the Swedes are always very brave and they dare to say that when all the others say, we don't know whether the drones were Russian and we don't know where they came from. The Swedes say the drones were Russian, the drones that were shot against Charles de Gaulle. And these are all prepared attacks to create fear in Europe. If you are afraid, you have lost already half the battle. And this is the situation in which we are in. There are many politicians who fear, and there are people like Anastasia, Brian, and myself who are not in fear. So I think we are the ones who have to speak out loud, because we are the ones that can fight this fear that exists overall. And I mean, the problem with Europe is that Europe has, fortunately, since we have the European Union has to speak with one voice. And then you have countries like Slovakia and Hungary in Europe that block everything. And since everything has to be taken unanimously, if Viktor Orban says no, things do not happen. And I must say, I'm very disappointed, because, as Brian told you, I was there when the Iron Curtain between Hungary and Austria fell down. And now the same Hungarians that were liberated by the brave Hungarians who fought against minefields and self-shooting contraptions, they are now the ones who are being sort of betrayed by their neighbors, and by their neighbors Hungary. And I must say, this is really extremely shocking. I must say, the Hungarians shocked me terribly. It's treason against the victims of minefields and self-shooting devices at the border. Hungarians are traitors against their direct neighbors. And it's one thing which I always think is which is clear for you, because you are constantly in Ukraine, but for us who sit a little bit further away, it is so incredibly impressive how the civil society answered to the war. Nobody expected this, but I must say, I can give you one example. We have obviously a pan-European Union in Ukraine, and the president is a professor of history at Chernivtsi University, Igor Zhaloba. And he turned 50 years, 4 days before the war started. And when the war started, he instantly went and said, I want to defend my country. And he was standing in Kiev with a machine gun and defended his country. And afterwards, he went to Bakhmut, where he worked in a drone unit. And I must say, this is something which impresses us in the West extremely much, that the civil society is working so well. And what the other thing is that I'm very glad to say that in Europe, also the civil society tries to do its best. I mean, if you see, we have, for example, in Stockholm, every Monday, since the first day of the war, a Monday meeting, where at least 30 to 40 people every Monday come and meet for 1 hour. They get speeches and they sing together, but I mean, they show their strengths and they show their interest. And when you say people cannot have more than two thoughts in their brains, I mean, the Europeans right now show that they are capable of having more than two thoughts in their brains. And one thing which I think is very important also is that people where you would never expect that they can show so much support. My oldest brother got married 3 years ago to a girl from Portugal. And I mean, she is as far remote from Ukraine as you can imagine. But he managed to tell her the importance of Ukraine. So when he asked her, where do you want to go on a honeymoon? She said, obviously to Ukraine, because I want to see the country about which you talk so much. And on the other hand, my own son, I have sent him already twice with minivans to Ukraine, because he has to go there and has to see for himself what happens in Europe. And he's getting married the week after Easter. And his fiancée said she's absolutely fine if he goes 2 weeks before their wedding, if he drives more generators and minivans to Ukraine. And I must say, this is what I think is a responsive civil society. And I must say, this is something which impresses me very much. And I mean, myself, I'm not a journalist. I'm a politician. I sat in parliament. I'm not like my father that I have the view against the people. But very often people ask me, if you are a politician, what do you think about this, that, and the other politician in different countries? And I mean, I have no clue. I cannot with big security say, this politician is good, this politician is bad. For me, politicians have to answer to one question, and it's a black and white question. What is your personal opinion about Ukraine? If you are with Ukraine, it's white, you are okay. If you are against Ukraine, you are black, you are out. And I must say, this is for me very easy to decide which politicians are good or bad. Therefore, I dare to say politicians like Viktor Orban, who only block things that the European Union tries to decide, this is a shame. And I think everybody has to we have all to try and see that we do more for the civil society. And I'm pretty sure that with all this possibility we are having in the civil society, Ukraine will prevail. So next year we are going to celebrate a Ukraine in freedom and peace. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Walburga. I love to hear your stories and your passion for Ukraine and for a strong Europe. Thank you for all you and your family are doing. We want to open up an opportunity for questions for those who are online. You can type them there or send them in. By the way, I always tell people that your favorite city, Walburga, is Chernivtsi.
Yes.
It's often forgotten in Ukraine because it's one of the smallest regions, but it has become, I think, more popular. I think it's safe to say since the start of the war, if for no other reason than sheer proximity on the western border, farther away from the Russian attacks.
But
But
to
that
my
being
big
said,
pleasure, I have seen that the Pan-European Union of Ukraine will have its next meeting in Kiev, which I think is very positive.
one question just came in. So the first question from Vitaly in Kyiv is, how did you first get interested in Ukraine? I mean, what was you traveled to many countries, but what got you most interested in Ukraine?
Well, it's very simple. Ukraine historically has always been a part of at least two little parts of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and I'm interested in the history of my family. This is how I got interested in Ukraine. And then I think it's very important that we Europeans try to keep our own continent free and safe. And when I saw that this was not absolutely for sure in Ukraine from the first beginning, I got interested. And then I also, since I am I love to do election observation. I was doing election observations in Ukraine, and I must say I absolutely love the culture. I love the people, and I love the history. So I just love the country. It's for me. That sounds stupid, and it sounds a bit sort of wishy-washy, but I just love Ukraine. It's very simple. Without knowing it well enough.
Wonderful. Super. The next question is, what's your opinion on the future of Russia?
Well, I mean, for me, the future of Russia is a future without Vladimir Putin, very simply. And I mean, I don't have the sort of the solution of how one can get rid of him. But for me, this is the only way that Russia can be in the future. Because what I do see is I see not Russia as a big green blob that it is today, but I see Russia sort of split up in all its regions. Because, I mean, why should we Europeans have so many different countries? And Russia should be forced in one big country. So, I mean, my future of Russia is the Russian lands and not Russia. And I have in my kitchen a big map of Russia where you see all the regions. And suddenly things become so much more clear to you. And I mean, I need this because I think it's important as a politician to have maps around you, because maps let you think clearly about the future.
Let me have a question here for Anastasia. Anastasia, of course, as the war continues, funding becomes more and more difficult with the closure of USAID. Of course, that also makes fewer funding sources available. The Europeans are doing a lot, but then on the other hand, the Europeans are also spending a lot on their defense now, which also takes away money that might be open for civil society. Can you tell us what would, and also right now, I understand most everyone working there are volunteers, but you're managing to do a lot with very little. If after service had $100,000 in donations this year, what are some things you could do differently than you're able to do now? How much would that increase your impact?
It's clear we just invest this money in physical rehabilitation for veterans who really just so need it because we just have to help them. And also, I suppose we just invest this money for educational for veterans. They just come back from their service and they just need retraining. They need to be back to this supporting community, and they just need retraining and gain education for as well. And also, I just want to say, Brian, 1 second. Walburga, thank you so much for your position, for your just supporting Ukrainian veterans, and we just really appreciate it. And thanks for defending Ukrainian interests in European area. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. With all gratitude from Ukraine. Thank you so much.
Well, but let me tell you, Anastasia, I must say I was incredibly impressed by your. I wrote down all the numbers. I was thinking the idea that there will be so many veterans after the war is really a shocking number, because how this is like a flux. You must sort of try to think if beforehand, because you must somehow try to prepare yourself to deal with so many veterans. I must say I'm deeply impressed by your work. Thank you so much. I mean, it needs people like you to have people like us to try and sort of help from the outside.
Yeah, we just need to cooperate, so thank you.
We'll be sure on the next visit of your son or husband Walburga to connect them with after service when they travel through Kyiv.
Definitely, please. Well, I mean, Anastasia, you will see one thing. My friends in Ukraine, I always try to stay in touch with them. And I consider you as a friend because I'm impressed by you.
One about After Service Foundation, and welcome to Kyiv in our office.
I want to thank both of our speakers today, Anastasia and Walburga. We are grateful for your continued support, your continued work on behalf of Ukraine. We're grateful for you making time for this today on a Friday. But the war doesn't, doesn't take a break, and we don't take a break either. So we continue to do our work. We want to thank everyone who's watching this video. Thank you for taking time out of your workday, if you're in the US, to listen to this webinar, to support us. It's the support of people like you who keep the work of Help Ukraine going. And we will continue to do these webinars and tell you about the interesting efforts that are taking place in the humanitarian sphere in Ukraine. So thank you for your support. Together, Ukraine will win. You said that when people said that 4 years ago, nobody believed them. Now people are starting to see that Ukraine actually has a strong chance to emerge in a victorious manner. And we are saying our prayers and hoping for the best as we look forward in the days to come.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us giving me a chance to talk about the country I love most in the whole world. Thank you so much.
Героям слава. Героям слава.